We're live? I think we're live. Hey, YouTube, welcome to the Blade Fit Academy. And I'm Coach Nate McBride. And what we're going to do here is 3 shield tactics that's going to up your sword and shield game. So let's go ahead and get started. So 3 tactics. First, I break up the idea of the shield into 3 different strategies. You have covers, right? And that's just holding the shield out there and covering the sword. We won't cover that right now. That's a previous video, and we'll speak more about that later. The second thing is, boy, now that we're going live, I'm totally melting down here, Nate. Okay, so you ever look at a cue card and just go blank? It's not like it's my system or anything. Okay, so anyway, scratch that. We're going to talk about shield tactics. And there's 3 shield tactics that we are going to especially cover today. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the cross, the shield cross. What I mean by that is we are going to cross our body with the shield, right? And so if someone's coming in with a cut or a thrust, we're going to take the edge of our shield, the closest edge to our opponent, and we're going to cross our body with it. Okay, so my sword, the main objective of my sword, just because I have a shield does not mean that my sword is going to be back here and do nothing for defense, and I'm just going to do everything with my shield as far as defense. That's incorrect. I want to use my sword to create a bind and to sort of shepherd their sword to my shield where I could pry it out of the way. I'm going to do that not all the time, but a lot of the time. In fact, the more I do that, and the more success and control I have of the fight when I do that. You are just reacting if you are covering, right, with the shield. They're attacking, you're covering. If you lose sight, especially the tip of their sword, you lose, how do I say this? When you lose sight of it, you don't know where it is, and you don't know where to put your shield. So even if their sword is on your shield, you know, it could glance off. They could be using their tip to kind of explore where the edge of your shield is. Your shield has an edge, inevitably, and they'll find it, they'll exploit it. So your sword helps to create a bind to keep them away from the edge of your shield, or to put it in the area of your shield where you want it for what you want to do, right? So with that in mind, with shield tactics, right, we're going to talk about crosses. So the first one is crosses. The second one is pushes. And the third one is traps. So let's talk about those. Okay, so if I set up, firstly, if you look at this on the floor, when I attack, I want to step in with my sword foot for attack. And the reason why I want to do that, it's to maintain distance. I want to be out of range until I'm ready to attack. I still want to do that even though I have a shield. The shield only buys you half a second at maximum, right? Because unless you're actively thwarting them, they're going to find a way around your shield in about half a second. It doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're in a fight, it's a long time. It's probably more like a quarter of a second in most cases. So, or even less in a lot of cases. So when I attack, I want to step with my foot, right? With my sword foot when I attack. And I'm just going to do like a #1 cut, right? That's right to left, cutting down. So when I do that, boom, like this, I want to make sure that my shield is out when I cut out in front. It does me no good as a counterbalance. I want it to be out front when I do. Now, notice when I take my step and I come forward, see how the edge of my shield covers my hand nicely? Now my hand is guarded, and my center line is covered with my shield as I attack, okay? So let's say that initial attack does not work. Now it opens up things, right? And so one tactic I could do is I'm here like this. I cross swords with them. I have the shield cover me here. Now, if I have them in the bind, my shield is also butting up against the bind, I can take another step and cross the shield across my body. And if their sword is here, right, I can cross their sword away and disengage my sword and basically do whatever it is I want it to do, right? It's not dependent. It's not a cut necessarily there. So I come in, I engage, and now I cross my body and I disengage with my sword. Now see, I can come up under, I can come up over like this, right? I can even come back if I need to, right? So if I come here, they freak out, they overcompensate, I let up, woo, peekaboo. Anyway, that's the cross, right? Let's not get too far into it. So that's a cross. A couple things to remember when you're doing the cross. When you throw your sword attack from your right side, you want to step with your right foot. When you throw a sword attack from your left side, you want to step with your left foot. Generally speaking, that's going to get you the most power. Now, same with the shield. If you want to, well, how do I say this? Kind of like a boxer, I can have, in fact, it's more powerful if I have my back foot back when I cross my body. See, because I'm engaging my core, and your left shoulder is strapped in your back to your right hip, and vice versa. Your right shoulder strapped to your left hip on your back. So that allows me to have, when I flex my hips, that gives me a lot of power, right? So when my back foot is here and I cross, that's going to give me the most power, right? But if I want to traverse across the center, right, I can still throw that, and it's not quite as powerful. But you see, if I do my foot placement in the correct way, I can still cross. Now, I'm not punching them in the face, right? What the idea of the cross in this instance is to take hold of their sword and move it out of the way. It's a lot easier to do that with a shield than with another sword. It's heavier, it's bigger, it's closer to your center of balance. There's no fulcrum on your wrist, right? You could really crank their sword out of the way. So you don't need to be on the back foot to really, punch. That's not what we're trying to do in this case. We're just moving their sword offline with the cross, crossing it to the outside of my body so I can free up my sword and find the opening, right? So that's the cross. Make sure, oh yeah, we were talking about footwork. Okay, let me check the time. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so so here we are. Here's the center line, their center line. If I step here, see, I've stepped here with the sword, right? Now I could step here. It's easier for me to cross. See, if I step here, all of a sudden, just by my footstep, my footwork is helping my shield in the cross, right, to do its job. See that? I don't need to rely only on my shoulder strength and my arm strength. Your leg muscles are much bigger. Train those, okay? So strike, cross. I didn't have to do a whole lot, right? And then I free up my sword and I cut. And it's because I moved this foot in the right way. Footwork, guys, unlocks your sword game. So do not ignore your footwork, right? Cross, like so, okay? Anyway, that's the cross. Mind your footwork. You've got your passing steps, right? And then you've got your leading steps, right? And both are applicable with sword and shield, okay? I could do a passing step, or I could do a leading step. And that is the same backwards, right? I could do a backwards passing step. Either way, I can do a backwards passing step, or I could do a leading step backwards. Both are applicable. Understand and practice each, okay? Okay, so that is the cross. Let's talk about the push. In a lot of rules of different games, you cannot use the sword edge to push. Some you can, like Boo Hurt. They really want you to, boom, it's one of the most effective things you could do, right? You're planting your back foot and you just bam, and that helps you to knock them down, right? That's a rough game. But a lot of games you can't do that. So let's talk about the push. Now, depending on the game set, using the edge is probably the most efficient way to push because it's more in line with your arm to push. But some games you can't, and so you have to use the broad side of your shield. It doesn't matter. The mechanics are basically the same. It's just how you have your shield, right? So same type of thing. When you do a push, first you want to attack with your sword, and then you can push them back. And the reason why you want to push them back, let's say they're crowding you. You come up here, you don't like this. When your shield is shield with your opponent, what's the first thing they do? They go around your shield. So they either come up above or they come below and hit you in the leg, right? You don't want to get hit in the leg. So a push, right, helps to get them away from your legs and gives you room to swing your sword. This is a gladius, it's a short sword. Typically swords are a little longer, right? The period swords are a bit longer. You need that room to be able to make your cuts effective. So shield push is a very legit way to own the space, right? You're here, they're there, you're locked up, push, right? You want to just push them out of the way. You may not have room for a punch. Okay, that's a different reason why you want to do that. You're here, you're in some kind of, you struck, they've struck, you're like this or something, and, take a step forward and push. You want to turn your hip and you want to extend your arm. You want to push them out. So it doesn't matter which foot. Actually, I should say it does matter greatly which foot you use. It depends on where they are in relation to you. Okay. If I want to push them this way, I may want to step forward like this and push them that way, right? Or let's say, gosh, it depends on where their legs are, right? If I want to push them that way, maybe I want to crank my body and push them like that. It all depends, but you get the idea, a push. So leading step works great. Let's say you've just struck like this, you do another leading step and push, right? Or you've traversed, now you're like this, and you just, another leading step with this foot forward and push. So it's really dependent on the situation, but that's the push. Okay, now let's talk about the third tactic, and that is the, oh gosh, which one did I say? There's lots of them. Which one are we doing? The trap. Yes, the trap. The footwork on the trap is significant. So let's talk about that in a minute. Let me set the table. So what is a trap, Nate? A trap is when when they're swinging down with their sword and you are physically trapping their sword arm out of the way. So a successful trap is when you get your shield up under their armpit and now they cannot cut you. Yeah, they could touch you, but unless you're playing lightsaber games, it's not actually going to cut, right? It won't count in most games. Or it shouldn't, I should say. Not if it's following some kind of martial reality. It's really not gonna. It shouldn't count. But the reach with the sword is much more than the reach with the shield. Yes, yes. And so when we trap, okay, I'm like this. When we trap, we need to anticipate. And when they wind up, let's say they're not very disciplined or they really like to wind up for those hard strikes. When you see them wind up, that's when you go. So you get disciplined in your footwork. And here's how I like to go. Here's how I teach this. You have your sword hand and your sword foot. Sword hand is forward, okay? If you're back, out of reach, out of measure, then you step in, right? So you lead with your shield foot, step in with your sword foot. But once you're in, you're leading with your sword foot. Reason why is you're leading there. If they're right-handed, they can't swoop down without having to reckon with your shield that's here, and you could screen them, right? You could step off to the side, you could screen them. If you're here like this, you've got your nice juicy target of a leg just super in reach, okay? It's harder for them to reach this than it is that. Plus, if you're striking them like this, then you are lessening your reach a lot, right? So there's a dummy just off camera right here. If I'm here, that's as far as I could go. Now watch this. See how much further I can go, right? And swords play is a game of inches, right? Yeah, okay. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, so trapping. What I want to do when I trap. Okay, I'm here. I'm waiting for that sign. As soon as I see that sign, as soon as they're winding back for something, some overhead strike, that's when you release. Okay, that's when you step with your shield foot and extend your shield out. Wham! And you want to go past their sword. You want to at least engage their hand. Now, be careful, don't punch their hand. Don't be a jerk. Like, you're going into the inside, right? You're scooping from the inside line so that you can trap them, right? So that they come up against a plank like this. And it's not just the sword where they could bounce off or, you know, do something. You're holding them there. You're applying pressure. Once you're there, wham, you hold them there and you're applying pressure. Their sword arm is open. The only way that they can unlock that is by traversing or stepping back. As soon as they're in that position, when they see that, it's so awesome to eat that up, right? Because you own that. They have to now, whatever initiative they may have had is totally gone when you have their sword arm trapped, okay? And then it's just dependent on your footwork, okay? Really rush them. Now, watch out for the sword punch, right? Or shield punch. They could deck you or they could push you away. You got to watch for that with your sword, right? So you could go here, low, you can go high, right? Lots of different things. And just keep moving, right? But always apply pressure to their sword arm. That's why it's called a trap. Don't let them go, right? If you need to traverse this way, okay, you traverse to the left and you've got their arm pinned, traverse to the left. Keep putting pressure on their arm when you have that trap because it's kind of hard to do. You have to anticipate it, right? Because you're covering a lot of ground. Bam, as you do that, and now you got them, right? Keep applying pressure and, you know, go for their legs, go for their head, go for the thrust if that's allowed, you know, all those things. Do what you need to do. And there you go. Okay, guys, that's it. So we talked about crosses, we talked about pushes, and we talked about traps. So practice those, and I will see you on the next video. Always remember to slay your demons. And I'll catch you next time. See ya. Well, yeah, and here we go. My computer's down here. Woo! Let's end the stream. End it. Yeah, we're ending. Okay, toodles.